Welcome, guys. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. All right. We'll be starting in about a minute. Starting. Okay. We're starting shortly. Good evening, everybody. Yep. All right, Reverend Sam is on. Can you hear me clearly, sir?
I can hear you, Pastor Poju.
Oh, wonderful. How are you?
Good, I'm good.
And
how are you?
Very well. How are you coping with the lockdown?
This is a forced Sabbath. Oh, yeah. Unprecedented. We're enjoying it. Pastor Nika was saying to me, some days ago, she said, well, it's looked like this is going to work well for introverts, but for extroverts, this is not going to look good. You guys need to have mercy on us.
Well, we'll be kicking off. People have sent a lot of questions.
Oh, right.
So I once we get to 1,000, all right, we're 1,000 people, so I think we can start with 1,000 now.
Wow.
All right. We're good. We can shoot.
Good. I'm ready.
You're right. You're right. Okay. So for the viewers, this is the way we're going to the way I'm going to ask the questions. I'm going to look at 3 levels of leadership, so people understand. The first is self-management. The second level we're going to look at is when you are now moved from self-management to managing a group of people. Then the third level we're going to look at is when you now manage the people who are managing the group of people. So you are now managing the manager. So we'll stop at that particular level. So I'm going to start out from the first level, and that's where the first question is going to come. And I will call it the individual contributor level, which means as an individual, what you are contributing. Yeah. So, Reverend Sam, I'm going to ask you this question first. Okay. I want to ask now, diligence is doing a little thing or little things for a long time until something big happens. So what I want to ask you in your own personal experience, what are the 3 little things, or just 3 little things, most significant things you did for a long time that caused big things to happen in your life?
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
The first one would be reading the Bible.
Okay.
I realize the Bible, serves as my tuning fork. When you tune a guitar, you have a standard with which you tune. These days, they use an app to tune. And when the human system is tuned to God's frequency, then downloading comes easy. So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is to read the Bible. Job 32 verse 8, Elihu said, there's a spirit in man. The inspiration of the Almighty gives him understanding. So the reason why people find music very powerful, even drugs, the reason why they find them powerful is because they take the human system up to that system that level where there's inspiration. And when there's inspiration, you catch things. Your intuition is tuned to a high level. So I find when I read the Bible like that in the morning, it puts my system there. By the time I'm having a shower, I'm usually I'm downloading things. So it's worked so well for me that I'm going to be doing it's a habit I'm not going to stop. It's worked too much. The ideas literally create my world and create the future. One second thing that I have done over a long period of time is planning, goal setting. Again, I tell people, simple illustration. Most of us in Nigeria love football or soccer.
Yeah.
So I tell people, if you have a football field, you have two of the best teams in the world, and you have no goalposts. Nobody is going to win. There will be no joy, no celebration. You just have to define that small space with that goalpost through which, if the ball goes, then you say it's a goal. So people kick their balls in different directions in life. But without a target goal defining that small space, you have no fulfillment. There's no joy. Yeah, there's a lot of activity. So for me, the goal setting, I do the yearly one, I do the weekly one, and then in the morning, I decide on the things I'm going to do for the day. I found it so powerful, actually, that in 1997 January, I did a long range one for 60 years. Wow. Because I stumbled on something, yes, that a Harvard professor stumbled on. He called it the law of time perspective, but it's actually the principle of vision. The longer the time you take into consideration when you are deciding and acting, the higher you rise. So the person that thinks 10 years will always rise higher than the person thinking 10 weeks or 10 months or 10 days. So I do goal setting consistently. One other thing that I do consistently, adding value. Adding value. Okay, I realize that's the essence of life, really. So every single day, I must do something to add value to somebody. And when value goes from you, value will come back.
Great. All right. Okay. So 3 things: reading of Bible, so people that are taking notes, goal setting, and also consistently finding how you will add value. All right. The second question, still on this individual contributor level, is in order to grow in leadership, apart from personal competencies, and then things such as punctuality, reliability, content, there are work values such as acceptance of company culture.
Yeah.
So how does one identify? Because there are a lot of people that don't understand the culture of the organization they're working in. Now, they're talented, they are skillful, but they don't match the culture. And because of that, they can't get promoted or they can't rise within that organization. So how does one identify the culture of a place and quickly adapt to it?
That's a very, very good question. Very, very important one at that. The major factors, the basic factors that create the value or the culture of an organization, first, is the vision, the overall vision, the long-term goal of the organization. That is what shapes the decisions of the executives. You know, that is what shapes the operations, shapes the systems, shapes the budgeting and everything. So you have to first of all ask yourself, so where is this organization going? Where is this organization going? So that you can align everything you do every day with that. Some people, especially professionals, skilled people with expertise, they go into an organization, of course, usually, if it's an organization with systems, you belong to a department. So people are so consumed with their own role or with the function of their department, they don't think about the overall, objective of the organization. So they pull the department in a direction that is different from that of the overall organization. With that, you create a subculture. So you've got to be mindful of the vision, mindful of the mission, and then very importantly, the core values of the organization. What are the things that are very important, that they rate very highly? What are the priorities for the organization? You will always have competing priorities. People don't know that if they join an organization, they've imbibed at a subconscious level the vision and the values of the organization they worked for previously, maybe let's say for 10 years or 15 years. So if you are not conscious of it, you just find yourself saying, you see, where I was before, that's not how we used to do it. This is not where you were before. This is not where you were working before. So you have to, when you understand the vision of where you are now, you will understand how it is different from where you were coming before. If your idea is going to add value to this one and still help you to go where it's going, fine. So you've got to understand the values. If integrity is very important to them, it has to become important to you. If excellence is very important to this organization, it has to become important to you. If punctuality is very important to the organization, it has to become important to you. One of the challenges with organizations too is that when we measure performance, we don't measure alignment with values, with the values of the organization. So people run into problems and they don't understand what the problem is. They believe they're working hard, that they're trying. You don't even know. And then they think personalities are their problem. They think it's the supervisor. They think it's the manager. So I would say to the average person, calm down. Ask yourself, what's the vision? Where are they going? Where do they want to go? And help them to move in that direction, the mission. But then especially the core values. Now, there are stated core values. There are also values that are not stated in an organization. And you need to pay attention to check those unstated values that are important to them and also align with those ones. It's not being stupid or being mumu like people think. I have a mind of my own. Sorry, you should have built a company of your own and then express your mind there. But since you've come to another organization, align your mind to the mind of the organization.
All right then. Okay then. All right, the third one, the third question, we're getting into management now. So one of the major failures in leadership by experience, all right, in terms of, because what a leader does, he selects talent and delegates it. But one of the major areas where people experience a shortcoming, particularly in this part of the world, is leaving the wrong person in a job for too long. That is, the person was
Mm.
right at a time. Now, that person might have been personally loyal, maybe to the owner of the organization or whatever, but they no longer fit. Now, how do I make the changes without destroying the entire morale of the workforce? Because people know this person has been here for a long period of time and the person has been loyal, you know, so people might weigh that more than the competencies that you're asking for.
Well, I think a lot of leaders have to deal with this. A lot of, especially startup entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It's usually a tough decision to make. When you start an organization, you are at the entrepreneurial phase. At that phase, there's a lot of flexibility. You are taking big risks. You don't have many people working with you. So you really value the people that join you at the beginning. They play multiple roles the way you play multiple roles. You are the CEO, you are the accountant, you are the HR manager, you know, you are the IT manager. You play multiple roles. As growth comes, then you bring in professionals. Then they take some of those functions. Because if you go too long playing those roles, you will become the problem of the organization. Because you're doing things that are not your specialization. When the professionals come in, they will begin to pull you towards professional management. They are the experts in their own area. They have standards in their own area of skill. So they'll begin to ask you to align with those standards. It's like the accountant, for example, will tell you, you have to follow this ratio, the balance sheet has to look this way, and so on. Or the cash flow is going down, and so on. If you are smart as a leader, you had better listen to them, you know. But that's where you will have to manage your emotions, manage your ego, and you will have to make tough decisions. So the entrepreneur, you'll find out many entrepreneurs do what they do out of passion. It's like those of us that are in church ministry, for example. We did not start churches to make money. We started churches out of passion to see God touch people's lives and so on. Same thing with many people in business. You just want to change something. But now these professionals come in and the accountant is looking at it and telling you, Oga, we have to shift. We have to do this. If we don't, you won't have any company in another 2 years or, you know, that kind of a thing. And that's where the HR person, for example, begins to tell you, this person is not performing. This person needs to move. How do you balance ensuring somebody is doing the right job, somebody's in the right place, somebody's competent for the role they're playing, with rewarding loyalty? Because the question is usually, this person has been there. I spoke to someone with a very large organization some years ago, and it was obvious that some of the people at the top, at the highest level, had lost their drive. They had lost their passion. So, and he said to me, you know, many of them have achieved their own dreams. They own houses, they have money, they've seen their kids through university and so on. I said, then why don't you let them go? He said, the narrative that will go around now is that I destroyed their lives, that I used them for 25 years and then threw them away and destroyed their lives. I admit it's not always an easy decision, but I challenge leaders to do principle-centered leadership. Principle-centered leadership. And the thing with principles is that they have no respect for persons. No respect for status. So you make a principle or you make a policy, for example, in the organization. You have to be able to make decisions based on the policy. It doesn't matter whether it's your brother or your sister or anything. And unfortunately, that's what we lack in Africa, because the whole culture itself is not principle-centered. Somebody got the job in the first place because they are somebody's brother or somebody's sister. So to take them out becomes a problem. They're going to call the whole village to beg you, to plead with you. If the person came on merit, went through the process, you would have laid a foundation there. So I would encourage leaders, be principle-centered, make policies. Don't show favoritism. You will need to move people. You will need to. What did Jesus say in John 15? The branch that bears fruit, he says the branch that does not bear fruit, he cuts it. So I tell our staff that I like that passage in King James Version. He cutted it. So I tell them, when I need to, I will use knife. If knife won't work, we will use cutlass. I said, emotional blood will flow sometimes. But he said, the one that beareth fruit, he pruned it. I tell them that pruned is just a fine word, that pruned. It is still cutting. In other words, even what is productive has dead wood. And you need to cut it away so the resources can go to the productive part. That's where leadership comes in. A leader must be able to make tough decisions and to communicate them. If your motive is always love, you will find out you'll be able to make those tough decisions. You'll be able to hurt people without them hating you. Because I've had to make a lot of tough decisions like that.
All right. Now, a pastor sent this to me. He wanted you to, and it's like this question. As a young pastor, he says, how do you prepare your team for change, all right, or transition, particularly in positioning the team to absorb new talents without creating tension or bad blood?
Good one. First, let people know that change is normal. And that's part of the characteristics of a leader that has vision. Vision is so critical to a leader. Once you continue to paint picture of that, what we're becoming in the future, where we're going, everybody knows we're not staying here. So status quo is not normal with us. We're going to move ahead. So change is going to be normal here. People want the progress, but they don't like the process. When you are describing the change, sometimes they'll be happy. When you begin to effect the change, they will resist you. Okay? So it is good to be upfront about it. We're going to be changing here. We're going to be changing here. When the early years of Daystar, for example, once I saw that at the beginning, we were at the risk of, keeping things the way they were. I rotated all the leaders on their positions. I just moved everybody. You move from here to here, you move from here to here, you move from there to there. And the main reason was to get the point across. Here have we no continuity. There is no ownership of any position here. Okay? It was shocking at first, but they did it the first time and then did it the second time. So in our system, people know. We have a strong cell group system. We rotate the district pastors, the pastors over the districts. Our satellite churches, we rotate the pastors. So people know. It's just that it's slower now because we're big. Okay? But I just wanted people to know that change was normal. And then in those early years, I bought Who Moved My Cheese? Okay? For our leaders. Then I went through the book with all the staff. It took us a few weeks of staff devotion. I went through it. I like the first principle there. They always move the cheese. Change is constant. And with that, a leader has to be strategic. So I let them know the future is not going to be the same as this. We have to prepare for it. So with that, people know we're going to be adjusting things. So at the point at which I want to bring in new talent, usually I do a rotation like that. and then the new talent is able to come in. You have to be sure too, there are two dimensions to it. I emphasize too on specialization, on talents, on skills. So I run a test. There is this test, I'm trying to remember the name. Is it the Bellerin test now? That measures the personality, the team personality, they call it, team personality test. Your personality or temperament is one thing on a normal day. When you find yourself in the team, there's a kind of personality that you display. My type is called the plant, where the ideas people. You have the person that is a company worker, their own, you make the decision, they execute, you know. You have the finisher, that's where Pastor Nick falls. When you've done all your discussing, all your plan, everything, and everything looks perfect to you, they're the ones that look and point out what is wrong there. They help you to put the icing on the cake, okay, and so on. With that, I emphasize to our team that each of us has our unique roles. So you don't need to compete with somebody else. Just be the best you that there is. For example, I assure our team members, I know church members will compare you with me. Don't let them put you under pressure. Teaching is my #1 gift. Wisdom, teaching. That's where my primary gifts are. So the teaching, even if you wake me up from sleep, I will make sense to people. Don't let them measure you on teaching. Just let's find your own area. So whenever you go up, just move in that direction. They won't say that you did not do well. If each person is comfortable in their role, they won't be too threatened by someone that is coming, especially if the person is just coming to add their own flavor and not take their own place. But you also need to coach the person that is coming in. You need to coach the person that is coming in. The person needs to know how to manage the egos of the people that are there already. How to show them respect over time so that the person can be accepted. Sometimes if you bring somebody in, majority of the people already there do not accept, you may have to take the person out, which is not the best.
All right, sir. Okay. Now, somebody asked, he says, how do you switch from transactional type of leader to a transformational type of leader? Running a small, medium business with high volume can put you in a place where you are transactional for a while, which is not sustainable. Now, just for people to understand the terms he's using, transactional leader being a leader, you're interested in driving the bottom line and it works, and the success of the business is hinged on you. As a matter of fact, it's hinged on you. Transformational is when you realize that's no longer sustainable to be transactional, and you want to institutionalize the business such that it generates revenue with processes that are dynamic and not dependent upon the individual. So he talks about switching. All right. So a few things that you want to know about that.
Okay. Well, the basic thing about a transformational leader is the fact that you empower people to be able to do what you do. I would say, well, since this person is asking specifically, I'll tell anybody at any point in time, the transformational leadership style is better. You can start with that and drive success. But if you find out you've been transactional in your leadership, you want to switch to the transformational one, then the important point there is that you prioritize people over money. You prioritize people over tasks. You prioritize people over systems. See, like this person has recognized, the transactional one is not sustainable. They know you are in it for what to get. So they too are in need for what they will get. At the point at which it will not pay them anymore to be there, they will leave you without any emotions. The likelihood is you would have hurt them, deprived them of some things in the bid to make money. So they too don't mind to hurt you before they go. So when you prioritize So you realize when you build systems, it is people that run the system. The quality of the organization on the long run will not be better than the quality of the people running the organization. Take interest in people, love them genuinely. Take interest in them as persons. Don't treat them as equipment. Don't use them, okay? Take interest in their personal development, their personal empowerment. I'll tell you, when you love people like that, they will love you back. There's a reason why love is the greatest commandment on the planet. When you love people, they love you back. Some people say, oh, well, loving people is a risk. So what if I love them, I empower them, I train them, I spend money on them, and they leave? I tell you, the principles cannot be broken. Somebody will love you back, okay? Somebody will pay you back with loyalty. But maybe the important thing also is that the likelihood that people will hurt you will be grossly reduced. If you love genuinely, the likelihood that they will hurt you will be grossly reduced. Okay, I can give an example, okay, of a switch that I made at the point at which Daystar was 1. And it was an encounter with the Holy Spirit. As we were preparing to celebrate our first anniversary, and the Holy Spirit just said to me, you must deal with your insecurity. You must deal with your insecurity now. If not, you will hurt those people that I've sent to you. I said, oh. And he took me to Hebrews 4 and says, you need to enter your rest. You must not fight anyone, quarrel with anyone for leaving that church, whether pastor or member. The day you do it, it will be proof you believe that I am weak. I said, what does that mean? He said, well, if you quarrel with someone for leaving, it will mean that you believe that the person's exit will stop the fulfillment of my plan for the church. And he said, nobody is powerful enough to do that. Your destiny is in my hand. So enter your rest. The works were finished from the foundation of the world. And with that, whatever it is anybody wants to do, support them. So I went to our management meeting, our pastor's meeting, and said to them, okay, guys, I want to say something. Any one of you that wants to leave at any time, tell me. I just want to tell you here now that I will never fight any of you for living here. So if you tell me, I will appreciate 1 month notice so I can prepare to replace you. If you say the Holy Spirit said no, I said 24 hours notice is not bad. I'm going to pray. If I receive that it's time, I'll say so. If I receive it's not time, I'll say so. But I'm not going to hold you and I'm going to quarrel with you, because the day we stand before God, you will answer for yourself. I won't. It was a risk saying that. It was a risk. And the Holy Spirit was actually asking me to take the attention of myself, to stop trying to protect myself, you know, focus on these people, empower them. The result then was that nobody wanted to go. So I'm just assuring the leader, it's risky loving people. It's risky investing in people. It's risky empowering people. But when you do, I promise, because it is God that oversees that principle. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that he shall reap. People will love you back. You will get unusual commitment, unusual loyalty in your organization.
Amen. Wonderful. Now, I just want to say something. Some of you are putting comments in. I hope my boss is here listening. I don't think it's wise for you to be writing comments about your boss. This social media, I can get anywhere. So this is just part of
right.
Some of the things that I don't think it's right to be calling out your boss here, please. All right. Now, this is a question from a CEO. So probably this is a high-level leadership question. He says, we know delegation is important to scale, but also know that people like Steve Jobs, Bezos, that's Amazon, were said to be chronic micromanagers. Delegating is challenging to do well. What should you delegate and what should you focus on as a CEO? Some say delegate things you already know and are good at so you can supervise properly and not be bamboozled while focusing on new challenges. Others say delegate the things you don't know well and focus on your strength. which have you found to be a more effective approach?
Okay. I would say I delegate operations and I focus on strategy. Operations is day-to-day running, okay? It's ensuring things are working. The strategy is ensuring, having an overview of everything, ensuring everything integrates, and ensuring that everything is moving us towards the fulfillment of the overall objectives of the organization. So I'll delegate the running around. I will focus on the thinking. I will focus on looking at the reports. I will focus on looking at the figures, at the data. I will focus on looking at the trends. What is working, what is not working, what is going up, what is coming down, which I think is the work of a leader. Vision, strategy. I tell our team, now the point is that items flow between operations and strategy with time. Even when you empty your plate as a leader, within a short time, the plate will get filled up because you're always creating new ideas. You're creating new projects because your focus is growth. The managers help you to focus on the efficiency. You need to look on that too, but you need to be expanding. You need to be growing. And the organization grows here. So I focus more on the long look, the strategy, like, again, I should say it's a process. When you're just starting, let's say you're a startup entrepreneur, you are the only one in the organization. Who are you delegating to? You delegate to yourself. So you do the strategy, you do the operations. But as you bring people in, it is the day-to-day running, the operations, the routine work, you drop them so that you can have time to think growth and to think alignment for the organization with the vision and alignment of all the systems and processes. Now, I tell our team, so we've gotten to the point now, for example, I run several organizations, I run businesses, I have the church, ministry. The most advanced is Daystar with loads of staff and so on. So we have a COO. And I delegate, all the operations to the COO. My job is just thinking growth, thinking alignment, looking at the figures and so on, looking at the data. For our other assignments like Success Power, my consulting things, I'm at ADEYEMI GLC. Interestingly, I also happen to have a fantastic young man who's been working with us for 10 years. 11 years now. He's based in our UK office. He drives the whole operations, executes events and all that. Today we had a meeting for 2 hours already. So I delegate operations. Then I say to our team, I will delegate everything I can delegate. I will focus on the things I cannot delegate. And that now comes to my values. Because I value family. So I said to them, there's nothing I'm doing here that I cannot delegate to you guys. That's the Daystar team. Preaching, you can preach. Running the meeting, I can delegate. I cannot delegate being husband to my wife, to any of you. I cannot delegate being father to my children. So I tell them if there's a conflict, for example, between attending a meeting, parents' meeting at my child's school. Since I can't delegate being father to my child, I will go for the meeting, you will take the preaching. So that's how far I go with delegation.
Okay. Now, next question I'll take. All right. This is from a medical doctor, and it has to do with it has to do with in a leadership position with all their COVID-19. They are in the front lines of it. So here is this question: in a crisis situation like we face now, Followers display a wide range of anxiety, some based on real evidence, some just on pure myths. How do you balance truly hearing their fears, which means their fears, and ensuring your decisions are not only driven by those fears, even though you hear it? What encouraging words and practical steps do you have for business leaders to manage the psychological pressure that comes with leading people in an organization in times of crisis, so that they avoid stress, meltdowns, and negative health implications?
Thank you very much. Good question, especially for the scenario that we're in now.
Yeah.
What is it that amplifies people's anxieties and fears? Uncertainty. So when you have a crisis situation where the things that have been stable, that people have been used to, are now moving. And like presently, we're dealing with a pandemic. And the last time a pandemic of this proportion happened was 1918 to 1919. So there are very few people alive right now that were alive then. And even though they were alive then, they didn't know who they were babies. Okay? So, sincerely speaking, this scenario is very threatening. We've never seen a scenario, all of us, where all the planes were shut down, airports were shut down, borders were closed all over the world, stock market crashing, everything, this one crashing and all that. So what does a leader do in a scenario like that? Validate their fears. Those fears are real to them. So we cannot criticize people for being afraid or for being anxious. 2, the leader must be positive, even when you don't know what to do yourself. See, as the leader, they are not expecting you to come and project your own fears on them. Why do people follow you? It's because you have a sense of where things are going. So, people either react or respond to situations and circumstances. In my encouragement during this season, I have asked people that, are you reacting or are you responding? I tell them, if I slap you, you slap me back. If they ask you why you slapped me, you say it is because I slapped you. And I say to them, it's not true. Between the time I slapped you and the time you slapped me back, there was that fraction of a second that you had the opportunity to decide what to do. Now, when you don't use that power of choice, a Christian will understand what I'm saying better. When Jesus said, if someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn the left one. I realize a lot of people don't understand what Jesus was saying there. They think he was asking us to be stupid. I've heard people say, Jesus said, if they slap you on the right cheek, turn the left one. So if somebody now slaps the left one, well, Jesus didn't say what you should do after that, so you are free. Sound the person back. Sorry, you didn't understand. you didn't understand what Jesus was saying. Jesus was saying, except if the person is mad, the person should not slap you the second time. The person started a cycle and was expecting you to complete it. You broke that cycle by not retaliating. You exercise that power of choice. Now, exercising that power of choice is what you call responding. So I tell people, don't react. Respond, calm down. Now, for them to be able to respond, they need perspective. That's what a leader should give them, paradigm shift. Help them to see the situation differently. That was what Elisha did with his servant in 2 Kings 6. When the king of Syria sent this battalion of soldiers to arrest Elisha, the servant screamed when he saw the soldiers, "Alas, my master, what shall we do?" The old man said, fear not. Those that are with us are more than those that are with them. That's leadership. Calm down. The world is not coming to an end. It's only a bend. It's not an end. When we negotiate the curve, the road will stretch out in front of you. There is life after COVID-19. There will be new opportunities. See, every crisis that comes, new opportunities come with it. I tell people, for example, when trouble hits anywhere, it is not everybody that prays for the trouble to go away. It is not everybody that is praying for the Boko Haram war to end. Somebody is selling yam, selling rice to the Nigerian army. Somebody is selling yam and rice to the Boko Haram army. Some people are selling bullets. You think those ones will pray for the war to end? The rest of us will pray for the war to end. What I'm just saying is crises create opportunities. So that's the job of a leader. That's the power of vision. The ability to see things not only the way they are, but the way they could be. So I would recommend for the leader, you need what Moses did, for example, when they got to the Red Sea. He said, calm down, calm down, calm down. You will not even need to lift a finger. God will fight for you today. You will see salvation. It was after that he now went to pray. His prayer was very interesting because he was he was lamenting, crying to God, what am I going to do now? God said, calm down. Go and tell them to march forward and stretch your rod. That's leadership, okay? Control, manage your own attitude, then find perspective. Talking about paradigm shift, Stephen R. Covey said in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, while trying to define the difference between a manager and a leader, he said, if you want to cut this plot of the grass, the plot of ground, the manager is the one that measures out each person's portion, ensures the cutlass is very sharp, efficiency, everything accurate. He said the leader is the one that finds the tallest tree, climbs it to the top, looks around to be sure we're even cutting the right bush in the first place. So that power of perspective is what a leader gives. I'll tell you what I did, the tree I climbed. I just went online. Maybe there was a pandemic 100 years ago. Let me go and study it, check it out. Because the interpretation that people are giving to this pandemic, they range from one extreme to the other. Okay, I don't even want to go into the details now, but there's quarreling on social media now from 5G to 10G and other things. So I went online. Then I decided to check how did it affect Nigeria. So I found something, a research article, by a lecturer at, is a history lecturer. He's now at the university at Birnin Kebbi. Beautiful research. I had to buy it, but I was happy buying it because when I read it, it was amazing. He dug into the British archives, all the records that the British colonial officers kept and so on. So I read 1918 September, when the thing hit, the way air travel now is the main thing for global transportation, and it was air travel that moved this thing, the coronavirus, around. It was sea travel that spread the pandemic around then, spread the influenza around. The ships that brought people, sick people into the Lagos ports, I got the names, the dates they arrived, how the thing spread in Nigeria. I'll tell you the one that I saw that I almost screamed. They closed churches, they closed mosques, they shut down schools, they shut down markets. 1918. So some of us now think it is the Antichrist that is at work, does not want us to gather together to fellowship. We should just be thanking God that we have internet now and we can be relating without meeting together. They shut churches in 1918. So when the leader gets perspective like that, then you can calm people down and then tell them there will be life after this thing. We look instead for the opportunities, and I believe that will help.
All right. We just have I know people have about 10 more minutes, so let me quickly take fast. Now, somebody asked, as a leader, how do you handle a crucial staff member who is fiercely and openly loyal to a former head?
Good question. When you come into a new position, be very sensitive. I would recommend that you should not change anything for the first 2 or 3 months. Usually you come with your own idea. All the time that the former head or leader was there, if you maybe had been assistant or junior to the person, subordinate to the person, you'll have your own ideas how things should be done. So you are in a hurry to change things, to, just calm down. Because there are people loyal to the former leader that are still around. They will make life difficult for you and disable all your plans and visions if you disrespect the former leader. So the first thing you should do is calm down and validate that former leader and take time to read the people that you are dealing with. So if you find someone like that is there, what you want to do is to win the person to your side. Just leave the issues and build a personal rapport. Any leader needs to know the share of power on their team. Sometimes you have strong opinion leaders in a team. Every leader has people like that. While you are discussing something at the meeting, some people at the meeting are looking at somebody else and trying to look at the person's reaction. If the person agrees, they agree. If the person doesn't agree, they don't agree. If I have somebody like that on my team, I will always discuss new ideas with the person before we get to the meeting. So if I get the person on my side, so if the person is nodding at the meeting, then all of the person's disciples will also agree with the decision. So you've got to manage your ego. Don't change things quickly, validate the former leader. And it is when you've gotten enough buy-in in the team that you bring in your ideas and they will sell.
It's powerful. All right, a young pastor asked this question. He says, when a leader loses influence, his influence over his followers due to familiarity or due to the followers finding out his weakness, what should the leader do? And how can he avoid people being familiar with him and at the same time carry people along, right? Or without crossing? That's what he wants to find.
That will border on the law of respect. People only follow people that they believe are ahead of them in any field or role. So if people are losing respect for a leader, I would not say that it is so much because they're finding out the leader has a weakness. They know already without finding out. But there's no perfect boss anywhere. Everybody has weaknesses. It would be that they are catching up with the leader. Either that they are catching up with the leader, especially in terms of knowledge, in terms of skill. It may be that the leader is not inspiring to them anymore. That's where the disrespect begins to come in. If you don't stop your growth, both in terms of character and competence, in other words, you're still working, cultivating new habits, improving, you're living a disciplined life. They don't expect you to be perfect. Where, you still have your own struggles. You are open about them. Okay? You don't pretend. You are not hypocritical. People won't lose respect for you. And then if you don't stop reading, stop learning, if you come to the meeting and you have something new to say each time, if when you have decisions to make, your processing is superior to theirs, because that's where they measure the wisdom. You are delegating work to them, they're increasing in competence, fine. But like Jethro said to Moses, let them deal with the small issues, let them bring the big ones to you. So when they hit complex issues, they can still come to you and you will find a way. They won't lose respect. They won't lose respect. It's not because they found out a weakness that they're losing respect, because they're catching up with the leader. The leader needs to go for growth so that the leader can be inspiring to the team.
That's very, very, very powerful. Let me see which question. Okay, I'll just take this one. All right, this person says, how do you balance the need of what you share with your team in a corporate environment of the strategy and goal for the business and the practice of your faith in working towards the goal, especially when the goal may seem unreal or unattainable, given the present circumstances. In other words, Ben says $1 million is a realistic target in revenue for the year. That will make sense given the past track record. But in your heart, you are reaching for a revenue target of $10 million, which if shared with your team will seem unrealistic and make you, the leader, maybe look unserious. How can you carry them along in the belief and working towards the goal and the practice and the exercise of that?
Very good question there. Feed people with what they can digest per time. That's what I would say. If you sense the capacity of your team, give them what they can handle. But you see, when you give somebody something that is bigger than the person can handle, rather than inspire, it will overwhelm the person and then paralyze the person. So if you have most of your team paralyzed, you will achieve nothing at the end of the day. So sometimes as a leader, you know some things, especially like you said, if it's from the dimension of your faith. God said it to you. You said Jesus would look at his disciples sometimes and tell them, you know what, I have some things to tell you people, but you can't bear them now. You can't handle them now. So I'll keep them till later. Give them what they can handle per time while you are working on increasing their capacity. I'll tell you something though, that once in a while, you throw those long goals. Okay, they're not for discussion or for just say it. If over time it happens consistently that what you say comes to pass, they develop confidence in you and in your intuition and your capacity for vision, and then they would have grown to have, to develop the capacity to handle that kind of a thing. Then you can be sharing that kind of a thing. You will notice when Christ communicated, he communicated to people at different levels. What he shared, he took Peter, James, and John to the mountain where he was transfigured. Only 3 of the disciples. There were things he shared with the 12. What he shared with the 12, he did not share with the crowds. When it came down to the crowds, and this will help a leader with communication, they said Jesus did not say anything to the crowd without a parable or an illustration, or should I say a story. At the lowest level, you see, when you tell stories, you communicate with both the professor and the peasant at the same time. That's why the entertainment industry is so powerful. That's why Nollywood is powerful. That's why Hollywood is powerful. So I'm just saying, you give people what they can digest per time. So don't rush your team. With time and with consistency in achieving goals, the capacity to take these your powerful visions and dreams will increase.
All right. Reverend, if you can, just one more, because this is an executive director of a bank. He sends this in. If you can answer this in 2 minutes, he says, now what's the question now? All right, I'm going to get it now. It says, all right, there's a school of thought that says leadership is situational. How do new leaders who came into the limelight due to how they handle the crisis situation step up to the next leadership phase when things are back to normal? In other words, they were wartime, they were employed in the wartime. It's peace now.
Yes, and they might continue in their war with their war strategies in the time of peace. I think one major dimension to leadership is the ability to read the terrain in the first place.
Reverend.
Yes.
My phone has said the 1 hour, 20 seconds left. So folks, thank you very much, Reverend, for being on this. The thing is going to go by itself. It's 1 hour, That's the program. Thank you so much for being on this. We must do this again. All right. To those of you saying 2 hours, sorry. Bye bye. All right.